Hi there. In this lecture we see Aevski against Mikhail Tal in 1952. This is a very, very exciting Sicilian defense game. e4 from Aevski. Mikhail Tal plays the Sicilian defense. Knight f3, knight c6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, and now knight f6. So this is the classical variation where both knights come out kind of in classical positions. You'll note that black has not used a6. It's all about the pieces. In this variation, knight c3, d6, we see f3, and now Tal plays a very energetic e5. Does it leave a gaping hole on d5 to be exploited strategically by white or not? It is a forcing move, but is it a bad one? We see here knight b3, but now the immediate bishop e6, bishop e3, bishop e7, queen d2, signaling that white will want to castle queenside. Now, is this a good idea? It seems queen e2 might be more accurate, so that when white does castle queenside, here is an example, that white has actually this pin against the d6 pawn, which could be used for knight c5 here. So that's a very interesting variation, which seems to lead white into a situation where it's pretty stable and white has a small edge. So that could be an interesting improvement to the game, queen e2. But queen d2 was played. Now here, it does seem a very, very interesting position. Can black actually just liberate with d5? It seems to be the best move technically, to just play d5 immediately, in fact. If black wants to equalize, for sure, this situation, queens could come off, or both sides could castle. Queenside, it should be equal. So d5 was possible here. What black doesn't want to do in this position is a6, because after a6, knight d5 is super strong. Forget castling queenside. This is super strong. For example, b5 is a disaster to bishop b6 and knight c7 check. So yeah, this would be really, really strong. And if bishop takes, again, white's advantage is pretty pronounced here. This is a very, very pleasant position. This is far too slow, this plan. So, yeah, it seems as though black does have to tread carefully here. And Tal chooses the move which does potentially create another light square weakness, b5. So he plays a5. So is Tal being a little bit too pushy, too forcing in this game? a4 is played. There is an alternative for white, just positioning to sit on that light square. So say black castled and white castled queenside, queen b8, king b1. Black's best might be knight a7, but white can actually just take that and retain a light square grip. White should have a small edge here. It's funny, but yeah, this position, you'd think that white should be able to do something with these light squares. White can in this line. However, in the game, yeah, this in the game, a4 is played. Now, is a4 a liability, especially if white's going to castle queenside? Intuitively, it would seem a very dangerous thing to kind of weaken the pawns around the king. So Tal actually just castles here. White does castle queenside, rook c8, g4, and white's getting on with an attack over here. Very exciting game. Knight b4, and we can see here there is almost the sense of a threat of rook takes c3, because in the event of queen takes, then there's knight a2 check. However, bear in mind, white can always take with the b pawn. However, it's still lurking in the background, this principal threat in general. So g5 is played, knight d7, h4, and in this position, it does seem as though black could have struck in the center. Tal played knight b6, which is one of two very strong moves, but d5 might even be stronger. For example, knight takes, we have rook takes c2 check, winning the queen, and this is very, very pleasant. So what does actually white do if d5 was played? Yeah, this is just tricky. If e takes, rook takes c3, now white has to tread carefully, not queen takes because of knight a2, but let's say b takes, knight takes d5, and it's pretty nifty. Black's got the advantage here, a nice edge, small edge at least, at the very least. There's no problems. White's king is a little bit compromised. So d5 did seem very strong, but Mikhail Tal played knight b6, which is also very promising. It's got some very promising ideas, and white goes very badly wrong now with h5. It was a necessity, absolutely essential necessity, to play bishop takes b6 to try and establish light square authority like this. If d5 here, then this kind of situation, there's b takes, and white can play bishop c4 here as an example. If check, queen c6, taking on d5, this is possible to play like this. It's a very interesting variation. Queen e3 with a small edge for white though, not queen takes d5, because then queen takes c3, mating on b2 soon. So anyway, so bishop takes b6 was necessary, but we have the move h5, and Tal goes into combinatory action here. So for 100 points, what would you play if you were Mikhail Tal in this position? Okay, this looks like there's a lot of pressure on the queen side. There's a target on a4. Tal plays knight takes a4. This really works very well. White ignores it with g6. If white took on a4, then there's lovely options. Bishop takes b3 might actually be stronger than rook takes c2, because it's hitting c2 and a4. And for example here, knight takes c2 is pretty devastating stuff. But also, even rook takes c2, as you might expect, is going to be nice for black, winning the queen. So white ignores it, but yeah, bishop takes b3 is played, c takes. Now knight takes c3, b takes. So what's the key point here? What does Tal play in this position for 100 points? Yeah, rook takes c3 check. All the tactics are working, flying off the shelves. King b1 is played. If queen takes c3, then we're back to knight a2 as a pattern to win the queen. So king b1. We have rook takes b3 check, king a1. If king c1, then queen c7 is just going to be mating. So king a1 virtually forced. But now, game ender, for 100 points, what would you play? Yeah, lawnmower mate pattern. Queen d7, we're going to kind of lawnmower mate the opponent's king here. Yeah, with the rook controlling escape squares. There's no real defense here. If g takes a token check, and say rook h2, yeah, white's going to be losing material, if nothing else, and still be subject to attack here. So, yeah, a crushing game here shows quite vividly the dangers of playing a4 and castling queenside. But if we're being totally objective about Mikhail Tal's play, and it's important, I feel, to be objective and know the real truth about games, because then you can draw the right conclusions. It seems as though there is a bit of downside to Mikhail Tal's play on the light squares. Perhaps, if you're playing and not minding a draw, d5 early on, but later on was also a really viable option. But yeah, white lost control here completely of the light squares and king safety later. a4 was a big target for Tal. So a wonderful example of an attacking game with the Sicilian defense, the classical variation with both knights coming out. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks so much. Hi there. Thanks for getting to the end of the YouTube video. If you would like to see other Mikhail Tal games, I actually have an amazing course for Mikhail Tal, which is currently at 4.9 with over 400 students. You can check this out from the Kingscrusher TV page. So Chess Strategy and Tactics, Mikhail Tal's amazing games. You can check out some free preview videos as well here. If you do expand all sections, you can see the preview links to get some free previews. So I hope you do check out this course index and the free previews. So I really had a thrilling time actually checking out Mikhail Tal's games. So yeah, the YouTube video here you saw was just a sample from this course. I hope you check it out. Okay, thanks so much. Oh, by the way, comments, questions, likes, shares, all appreciated. And if you did get to this part of the video, please do leave some sort of comment like Tal fan. Okay, thanks again.